All right, everyone. Welcome to the Just Win podcast. My name is Stephen Michaels. I am joined by Phil Robinson. We are going to go over 5 topics very fast for you guys. Let's get it going. What's up, Phil?
Steven, what's good? Just Win Podcast. This is a turnaround from the fastest radio show online, but I can assure you we'll be moving at just as fast. Question
Oh, yeah.
number 1. We are talking about the Raiders' new offensive line, how they look, and how do you feel about them?
All right. So I'll take this one first real quick. I don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest with you. They got Denzel Good back. Richie Incognito is 1,000 years old. Hopefully he can hold up. He's coming back. Brandon Parker is obviously back. So, Josh Simpson is there, young guy. Andre James, he's been being groomed to be the center for a while now, a couple of years. So the only question remains is the right tackle position. Who will play that? But I don't know if losing just those 2 guys, Hudson and Gabe Jackson, and Trent Brown. Trent Brown hardly played last season, so I don't really think about him. I don't know if that's going to make much of an impact. To be honest with you, these guys, when they plugged them in last season, they looked just fine to me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know, but I'm not as angry as I know Raider Nation is, the fans with the Hudson thing. What about you?
Well, initially, I felt like they didn't know what the hell they were doing, but they had a plan, and I liked the plan. They got cheaper along the front. They re-signed the guys that they needed to re-sign, the ones who were actually producing the last time that they played. The problem with Richie was not that the game passed him by, it was that he got hurt. And the right tackle is the question mark spot. I am higher on Brandon Parker than a lot of people are, because when I saw him play last year, his footwork was a lot cleaner. He lost a little bit of weight. He was much better in the zone blocking scheme, or the zone blocking that he did. And more to the point, the defensive ends weren't getting around him, weren't just completely embarrassing him. I think he had one bad game against the Colts, and then they went back to Sam Young. But other than that, he was solid. It wasn't a complete turnstile, and we weren't looking at it like, oh damn, here we go with Brandon Parker again. And so
Yeah,
I like it. They got a lot of faith in Andre James, and when you look at this Raider coaching staff, there's only a couple of guys who I really trust to be able to know what they're doing and to execute what they're doing and have a plan, and Cable is one of them.
yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you. I mean, Tom Cable, until the guy proves that, until he does us dirty here, you know what I mean, and puts out shit, and these guys suck, you kind of gotta trust the guy. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason not to. I mean,
No,
I didn't last season when Brandon Parker strolled out there. I said, "Uh-oh," you know what I mean? Like, because if you remember, this guy was a disaster.
horrible.
But Tom Cable, pretty much has been grooming him as well and made him lose some weight. Had him work on a bunch of shit. And next thing you know, he didn't even look like the same Brandon Parker.
No.
It looked like a different guy. So yeah, right tackle, obviously we'll see what happens there. Maybe the Raiders do bring in a veteran and they'll be fine. You know what I mean? I really think anyone that can go in there, I think Cable will be able to hopefully, because we know this quarterback needs protection. Okay, so let's go to number 2.
Number 2, Marcus Mariota returns. Let me start off with this one. I am all for it. I never wanted to see him leave. I personally still believe that he could be very good with John Gruden in this offense if given an opportunity. When he played against the Chargers and they lost that game, I put that loss on John Gruden rather than him, because they were down at the 5-yard line and Gruden effectively took the ball out of his hands when he had been dominating that defense for the entire game off 5 plays, which is crazy to me. He ran 5 plays, and those 5 plays over and over again tore up the Chargers defense. There had to be some type of concessions given to him, some type of promises made, because I, for one, don't understand why in the world you would give a backup quarterback a no trade clause on top of a whole bunch of incentives. That didn't make sense to me. And it really didn't make sense to me for him to take a $7 million a year pay cut either. So somewhere in there, there's something that we don't know about that was so enticing to him that it made him want to stay. Your thoughts?
I will say this is it's pretty obvious that Marcus Mariota will be used in a few packages this season. They could not really do that a lot last year. People got to remember that this guy was banged up with injuries pretty much throughout the season until I believe he only got cleared like a week before that Chargers game. He was a healthy scratch. He was still all banged up. And then he came in and he showed what he could do. And yeah, he did throw those interceptions, which weren't good. But I mean, you're literally taking a guy off the bench cold and throwing him in there and playing backyard football. But there's this guy could have been released, got paid somewhere else. He would have got paid. There's no doubt about it. Maybe not $10 million, but he would have got paid a lot more than he's getting paid now.
Five.
But yeah. And something had to happen where John Gruden gave this guy something. And the no trade clause is weird. That means Mariota wants to stay in Vegas. And this is a guy who told the Raiders that he wanted to leave because he wanted to compete for a starting role. That was the initial thing. So everyone just assumed the Raiders would release him to save that $10 million. But then as we get down to it, all of a sudden he has a meeting with John Gruden. And next thing you know, the guy resigns and there's a no trade clause in that contract. Something is weird going on there. But if this guy, here's the deal. We don't know, just because there's no trade clause doesn't mean you can't be released. So Marcus Mariota, I think, has to do well in training camp. He can't because he always plays terrible in camp. If he just does average, just runs around like he did in that Chargers game, John Gruden will like him enough, and he'll be in, I believe, a couple packages here and there, like a Taysom Hill and Drew Brees type. I think this is the year. Gruden's seen enough that he's seen this guy can run with the ball. He's going to get opportunities this season, no doubt about it.
And not just that, just to touch on that and add to that real quick. The Raiders were 24th and 23rd in the red zone in the last 2 years, leading the league in red zone field goals with 18. The next closest team was 12. For all the struggles that they've had inside the red zone, it would just be too damn smart to add that particular dimension to their attack and just switching your quarterbacks out in the goal line. If Carr can't get it done or is struggling there, give Mariota a shot. Doesn't have to be every series down there. Maybe one or two, just based off the flow of the game and what it looks like. If they're struggling, there's no problem with switching it up and giving defenses and teams something else to have to think about.
But I just want real quick, when you're inside the red zone, you don't have to take Derek Carr off the field. Throw Mariota on the field with Derek Carr. You know what I'm saying?
Do that.
Yeah, so it really you're really messing with the opponent because you don't know if Derek Carr is just gonna throw the ball like what he does, pocket quarterback, or if Mariota is gonna get you line up so you don't know who's getting the snap basically. Right. And even if Mariota gets a snap, it doesn't mean he's not gonna throw to Derek Carr. Don't think for a second Derek Carr doesn't want to catch a touchdown pass. You know what I mean? Right. So.
If Tom can run his ass out there on a wheel route and nearly catch a touchdown pass, we could.
Yeah, well, he's not Nick Foles though. He's not Nick Foles. Only Nick Foles can catch those, baby. The Philly special. But anyways, so yeah, Nick Foles owns Brady. But anyways, that's what I think. Probably will be happening this season because there's no other need for this to happen. The Raiders could have saved $10 million. That's a lot of money, Instead, they decided to keep a guy and put a no trade clause contract. Something happened in that meeting. We will never know, but we're going to know during the season, obviously, if this guy's in packages. So next question. Let's do this.
Question number 3. Is the Raiders' safety depth a concern?
You want to go or you want me to go?
I'll take it. So, is the depth concerning? Absolutely. Jeff Heath is a guy who should only be on the field roughly about 30 to 40% of the defensive snaps. It's definitely not, and he's got limitations in terms of speed and what he's doing out there, or at least he did in Gunther's defense. And we all know that I don't have a high amount of respect for Paul Gunther's defense, and quite frankly, neither did many of the players. But with Bradley and Milas back there, his responsibilities could be different and could be tailored to his strengths, which, oh my God, is some revolutionary type coaching. But that's a conversation for a different day. I want to see a superstar back there, and they have a couple guys that they can draft, or for coming out of left field, they may move Isaiah Johnson back there to safety if they don't play him at corner.
Yes, that is true. That is definitely true. You could use Johnson, but I just think the Raiders are gonna end up. I think they already know who's gonna be joining the team. To be honest with you, I think they have a couple of guys, you know what I mean, veterans that Gus Bradley trusts, that he knows he can bring in, say a Trey Boston or whoever, guys that he trusts that have experience. Um, there's a couple of them out there still. And every time I have asked the Raiders, which I've probably asked too many times at this point, I get the same answer. They have a plan. They're not worried about it. Everything's cool. There's plenty of players that they have spoken to. You also got to remember AJ Boyu and Clinton Dix. They already visited, so we don't. You know what I mean? Like the Raiders already have their homework done. That's what they're basically trying to say. What they're going to do at safety, and because of this whole week, with the scouts and stuff, the pro days, that took a back seat to a lot of these visits. But that's going to start happening again, obviously. The Raiders can even wait till after their draft to get a veteran safety if they already have an agreement, a verbal agreement with a guy. Like, hey, just give us some time here. We got Colton Miller's contract. We got this guy's blah blah blah. It's cap shit. So, and then we find out who it is. But I just think they do need a safety. So it is a concern. If they don't grab anyone, I will be concerned, because if Jeff Heath is starting, then I'm very, very concerned. I know he's a smart player and they like him and shit, but he's not. It's like having Eric Harris be the starter. You know what I mean? It's nice guy. He's smart and shit, but I don't want him starting at safety.
You'll get no argument from me there. You'll get no. Yeah. So the funnest question on the list so far: who should the Raiders draft in the first round? Let me go ahead and tackle this one for a minute just to start this off. It really depends who is on the board when they hit their draft slot. There's a couple of guys that I liked initially, but they've proven that they will probably be available in later rounds. But the guy, should he be available, there are two guys really, that I think that they just absolutely have to select if they're there. One of them would be Micah Parsons. That dude is a true alpha, a leader. And right now, for whatever reason, his name is getting slandered because of a little hazing incident when he was up at Penn State and getting into a fight in the locker room. But personally, with the way that this team has performed, I like a guy who can hold his teammates accountable and who's not afraid to knuckle up and show them the error of their ways. If it comes to that, he's out there making plays. He's a beast, ran a 4.39, just a monster out there, just a guy you absolutely could not pass on if he's there. The other one is the sexy pick. Give me J.C. Horn. Give me Joe's boy. I love J.C. Horn's game. I love his attitude. He was just up recently. He just was doing an interview talking about how the absurdity of the draft and reminding people that after the draft, they still got to go out and play football. So just because you're drafted at a certain spot doesn't mean anything until you hit the field and go show the world what you can do and do your thing. And that right there is the type of mentality and approach to this, a professional approach to football that the Raiders need on their team.
Okay, so I just want to add with the J.C. Horn guy too. Another kind of coincidence. I was telling Phil this before the show. Gruden is actually pretty good friends with his father. He used to go to the golf course in Florida. He used to go into his head coaching firing, whatever the hell this thing was called.
Fired
But
from
so he knows.
Coaches of America.
Yeah,
Tell them about
yeah,
Joe. For those
yeah,
who don't know about Joe Horn, just a quick reminder.
yeah. He's a wide receiver. Guy played forever, played for the Saints. Uh, he's a guy. He's a Gruden grinder. Gruden's loved him pretty much his whole career. So I mean, Gruden's friends with him. Knows him. Obviously, there's been that's impossible for them not to have spoken about his son, with Gruden. So that's why I say it's always intriguing. But the thing is, with cornerback is they already have Mullins. They already drafted Arnett. They have Robertson. They have so many cornerbacks. I don't know if they can do that again in the first round, because then it looks like, hey, we failed with Mullins and Arnett. But we do know they need offensive linemen. So I don't want to be boring here, but I have a feeling the Raiders will select an offensive lineman. I mean, it could be, there's a whole host of them, of these guys. But also, who knows? Maybe they want more pass rush. Maybe the guy from Michigan there. I can't think of his name now. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, and then if they do go offensive lineman, I do know they like the guy from Northwestern, Rashawn Slater. But this is my sexy pick here, and I think this is going to be more fun for everyone. I say the Raiders with the 17th pick overall, if they don't trade it. Who do they take? Mac Jones, quarterback, Alabama. John Gruden's excuse. John Gruden's excuse, hey, listen, Derek Carr's only under contract for a couple more years. We needed to develop a young quarterback. This guy doesn't see the field at all for a couple of years. And then that's their future. Now they could do that. Or of course, my other one, just one quick one real quick, because when I look at this guy, and I happen to know, by the way, this is facts, that John Gruden likes him as well. Harris, running back out of Alabama. This is a guy that's right up John Gruden's wheelhouse. He is a Gruden grinder. This guy could, I mean, to me, he's like a Leonard Fournette type. You know what I mean? So to pair him up, imagine that. Backfield. You got Drake. Drake's not going to be there forever, but you have him. Then you have Jacobs, and then you throw in Harris. Come on now. That's something that I don't know. I mean, taking a running back in the first round is risky. John Gruden's done it before. Can John Gruden resist? That's going to be the question. Or will he do it the safe, boring route, go for, a right tackle in the draft, which is probably more likely. But let's hope for something better, like me and Phil just said, because it's always more fun when it's some surprise,
Absolutely. The idea of drafting a right tackle in the first round makes me sick. I don't believe that Mac Jones is as good as everybody says he is, but I've been proved. I thought the same thing about Daniel Jones and was miserably mistaken. The trio of Najee Harris, Kenyon Drake, and Josh Jacobs. That is a very fascinating concept, and I hope that the line blocks well for them, because there's nothing that is proven to be more proven and reliable in the NFL than an Alabama running back. They may not
exactly
every other pick, but damn it, when you got an Alabama running back, you got yourself a stud.
And you also, just real quick too, I mean, when we talked about the safety position earlier, not a ton of safeties I could see going in the first round, but the Trayvon Moehrig, is that how you say his name, from TCU?
TCU.
Yeah, the Raiders already looked at him. I know for a fact he's already on their radar so that's a guy that I would watch out for too. Let's say, the Raiders have an offensive lineman they're set on, they want, that guy gets taken. Raiders don't move, you know what I mean? And they pull a Damon Arnett where they just take a guy where, they just need a cornerback so bad. They just take a cornerback. I could see that happening with him. You know what I mean? Because the Raiders need a safety. They're going to need a younger guy. So, I could also see the Raiders reaching for him. I just don't know. And they could take a cornerback, but that cornerback has to have experience playing safety as well, in my opinion. Or the Raiders have to think that cornerback can play safety in the NFL. Because remember, a lot of those guys do transition to safeties.
Right.
once they get into the NFL. So just because they say safety on paper when you guys read your mock drafts and all that bullshit doesn't mean teams are looking at that guy to be a safety. They might be looking at them more as a cornerback or safety, vice versa. Same thing, with linebackers. Sometimes they end up being defensive ends. A defensive end, and it might end up being a hybrid linebacker. You just don't know what an NFL team thinks that guy can do. You just don't know. And it's the draft. And by the way, everyone is always wrong when it comes to the draft. It's just the way it is. I don't know why people don't want to admit it, but that's what it is. No one ever gets a mock draft right. No one can ever predict which player is going to be a superstar. You don't know until they get on the field. That is just 100% facts.
Greatest league in the world. Greatest
All right.
mock draft prognosticators. Question number 5. Did the Raiders overpay in free agency?
You want it, or do you want me to take it
Go
first?
ahead, start us off, because I got the next one.
Okay. Listen, the Raiders, in my opinion, they didn't really overspend. They had to lock up Colton Miller. And if you look at his contract in a couple of years, it's not really that much. They gave a lot of guaranteed money. Drake is the only one people can point that, like, oh, maybe they overpaid for Drake. Maybe that they can say that. But if John Gruden thinks Drake is going to make that much of a difference, and make his offense way more explosive to compete against the Chiefs and the Chargers now, unfortunately, then it's worth the $5 million, whatever it is. I mean, it's worth it if this guy is literally a big playmaker. If this guy comes in, I mean, we got to remember, guys, last year when the Raiders got the alligator, Vic Tafer, you can go back and you can read articles that he was saying that Nelson Aguilar is not going to make the team. He wasn't going to make the final roster this guy was putting out there. And look at him. Look what ended up happening. The guy was definitely the best wide receiver on the field. He was one of the best wide receivers in football last season. So, I mean, John Gruden yes, he is dumb sometimes and calls stupid plays and makes bad decisions, but he still knows talent on offense. He still has that. He can still look at a guy and say that guy is going to be good in the NFL. He did it with Darren Waller. He did it with the alligator last season. I mean, there's a couple of guys he missed on, like Jordy Nelson, but like for the most part, this guy is pretty good at knowing if a guy has talent. So I would say you didn't overpay because you got Colton Miller locked up. You got Drake, who if he's gonna be that big of a difference maker, then it's worth it. And they re-signed guys. Some of the guys they re-signed, I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like Derek Carrier and Jonathan Hankins, they didn't need to re-sign them. But look, they're paying them like shit. So who really cares at the end of the day? It's not like, Derek Carrier is going to ruin the Raiders because he's going to start or something. He's just there because he has something on John Gruden or McMahon or someone. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I don't think they did. What about you?
Well, so I know that they didn't overpay anybody. In fact, I have been amazed at the cap magic that they put out this particular offseason. They trimmed all of the fat, which was at the offensive line. And while we all thought, oh my God, how can they do that? You look at the money that they saved from cutting Trent Brown, Gabe Jackson, and Rodney Hudson. They saved quite a bit of money and got the same replacement players that they were using for much, much cheaper. And it allowed them to go out and get Yannick Ngakoue on a steal. You talk about a guy they were going to trade for who was making $20+ million, who wanted to make $20+ million, and you got him at 13. Not only do you have him at 13, but you got him eager and willing to play at 13 million. We talk about Kenyon Drake, and now this is the genius of what they did with Kenyon Drake. His 2021 base salary is $1.125 million. He's got a $3 million guaranteed salary, with the roster bonus being 1.75. And in 2022, he's only getting paid 2.5 million with the roster bonus that's 5.5 due on the start of the new league year. Kenyon Drake will be 27 and 28. So they committed to him at what should be probably the final 2 years of his prime and can get out of this contract before he hits 30. Now you're talking about a running back who's ranked number 13th among 153 running backs who ran for almost 1,000 yards. And you're looking at between him and Josh Jacobs, that's 22 offensive rushing touchdowns out of your backfield. That is nothing to sneer at. And they
And wait, real quick too. And Drake can catch out of the backfield. Like he's a lot better than Josh Jacobs in that aspect. So I mean, that's a pretty big deal for that kind of for a West Coast offense. So yeah, keep going.
And then brings us to Colton Miller. Colton Miller started all 46 games of his career. He played in his rookie year. Everybody wanted to call him a bust for injuring his knee and playing on a bum knee for more than half the year. He's been shutting out Pro Bowl defensive ends game after game after game. I believe he gave up 8 sacks as a rookie, 4 sacks last year, or the year before last, and 1 sack last year. And so when you wonder how did he get paid all that money, he's starting every game, he's blocking everybody, and he's 25. I mean, what more could you ask from a left tackle? You can't.
And he shut down Khalil Mack. Let's not
And
forget about that.
Khalil Mack.
Yeah, I know. I know
Miller,
they used
Clark, all of them.
Yeah, I know Raiders used a couple, Waller and things like that, chip block them, but Miller pretty much had, you know, they didn't. Khalil Mack was no threat, basically.
And he's only going to get better because he's physically he's where he needs to be, and mentally he's only going to get smarter and more experienced. So it was beautiful. You got Mariota come back at a team friendly rate with incentives so that he's willing to play, he's ready to go in, and should the team start needing a spark, I believe that this will probably be the year that Gruden pulls the trigger. If they need a spark, then he's just going to do it because they can't afford to keep losing. They just
yeah.
And so in terms of allocation of resources, the way that they've done it, they've set everybody up to get paid up front, and so that the cap hit is not going to be tremendous if they need to move on. And it's probably been the smartest front office free agency that we've seen out of this team since Reggie signed everybody in 2016.
Plus, you got to factor in that, with this season, this is a big season for Gruden. So, like we mentioned earlier about Mariota, something happened there because there's no way. I mean, if the Raiders are playing terribly, he's going to put Mariota in there just for tickets. People are going to want to see him. That's what's going to happen. I'm telling you right now. Now, hopefully that does not need to happen, but that will happen this season if the team is struggling.
Because for the bonus question, is it ring season? Derek Carr came out on his Instagram and said we bypassed sleeve season and now we're at ring season. And quite frankly, I believe that that's what he needs in order to save his job, because he's been there an awfully long time and they haven't produced a division championship. They've only had 1 trip to the playoffs, and the rest of it has been awful. And Gruden cannot continue to lose in a brand new market with everything that he's been given, 5 first-round draft picks over 2 years, 6 over 3 if you want to get technical. And he has got to produce.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is the year. This is Derek Carr's, in my opinion. He didn't get an extension, which, by the way, like I keep telling the group, even if he got that extension, they were talking about in week 2, by the way, even if he ended up getting that extension, that was only gonna give him years, but just give him more guaranteed money. But it would still be a cuttable contract. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a way to save cap. That's all it was going to be anyways. But he didn't even get that. So this is the year. This is the year that Derek Carr must lead this team and must lead them. Now, I don't know if they can get a Super Bowl, to be honest with you. We're going to have to wait and see how this defensive line holds up and all that stuff and the offensive line. But I know I'm in a minority here, but I know Derek Carr, if he can play like he does the first 6 weeks of the season, right? If he can be locked in, like he was against the Saints, like there's a few you can go through games where the guy was tremendous. Not to mention, I mean, the guy is really good at comebacks. We can't give, he is good when it comes down to, hey, the Raiders need, let's say, a touchdown to win the game or a field goal to win a game. That guy is pretty reliable when it comes to that. I wish he would have that same attitude throughout 4 quarters,
Right.
but he doesn't. But, this is the year. And I think with all these weapons, they got Willie Snead in there. That's another guy I didn't even think of when we are talking about free agency. I think that's a pretty big pickup. That's another guy, like I was saying earlier to Phil, that Derek Carr makes these veteran wide receivers look good. I mean, he really does. That's another, plus for him. So, I mean, he's going to have the weapons this season. A lot more weapons than he had last year, obviously. So this is his final year to prove that he is the franchise quarterback. He got paid to be the franchise quarterback. Now it's time to put up or shut up. No more, I'm tired of being disrespected. Well, if you're tired of being disrespected, don't go out there and fumble the ball 4 times in one game. Don't make stupid decisions and throw it on the ground on 3rd and 1. Stop it. Stop it. Scramble.
League in turnovers.
Yeah, at least last season, he scrambled a little bit. Maybe he takes the next step and does that a little bit more this year. That would be great because he is athletic enough to do it. That's the weird part about the whole thing. But, this is the year for Derek Carr. He must lead this team into the playoffs. And I think, by the way, even if they get in the playoffs, if they don't win in the playoffs, I still think the Raiders move on after the season. He has to win at least one playoff game, I think, to keep his job for 2022, and then they'll go from there. They might give him an extension after that, but it might be a bogus extension, to save cap. Like, hey, you're good for 2 more years here, take some guaranteed money, and if he sucks, they cut him. You know what I mean? But this is the year that Derek Carr must get in the playoffs. No excuses. Like the name of the show says, just win. So, your final thoughts?
I don't have anything to dispute that. It absolutely has to be. They can cut him completely without a single dollar of loss of dead money against the cap next year. You have to energize your fan base. You got to give them something, especially since last year was kind of a lame duck year in the building with nobody there. The last thing you want to be doing is overcharging Raider Nation and overcharging people to come and watch the piss poor product that they've been putting out on the field for the last 20 years.
Exactly. And I think Mark Davis got away with it last year because there was no fans. This year, there's going to be fans. There's going to be. So he can't do that. They're in a new market. You can't just come out there and just completely suck. The Raiders are still going to get primetime games. I guarantee you, because it'll look better. The visual will look better with fans in the stands now and a new stadium. So they're going to get, I would say, at least 3 to 4 primetime games. And the Raiders are going to be featured a lot. So Derek Carr, if he wants to be the face of this franchise, he has to win. He's already been paid. That's what, a lot of these people who, are huge Derek Carr supporters that they say can't do no wrong, they forget about this. This guy has already he was the highest paid quarterback in football at one point. Mm-hmm. It's time to start winning. No excuses. I think he's capable of doing it, to be honest with you. I really do. If he just sticks to the system, doesn't do anything stupid, I think the talent around him can carry him. Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. There are a lot of quarterbacks that weren't that, and he's better than both of those guys. He is capable of doing it. It's just about putting it all together. And John Gruden's play calling, to be honest with you, it sucks in the red zone. So if that can get cleaned up, Carr can do it. But, we have to see it to believe it, in my opinion, because I'm sick of going 6-3 and then this team just falling apart in front of our eyes. You know what I mean? So that has to end. But this will be the year, guys. This is it. This is it. Who knows? We never know what's going to happen, right? So we shall see.
And in order to just win, just like the title says, it's got to be no more Mr. Nice Car. If you think a play's not going to work, scrap. You have autonomy at the line of scrimmage. Kill it and find a play that works. No more excuses, no more trying to lay it on the coach, no more trying to lay it on the OC. You are the guy out there under center. If you are serious about ring season, sleeve season, all these cliches and all this other stuff that you're talking about, go out there and do every damn thing in your power to make sure that you don't have to come up with your next excuse.
Exactly. And don't let people like me get into your fucking head. Okay. Don't worry about what I have to say. I have like $30 in my bank account. You have $100 million. Go do something. Go be better. Obviously, I don't know what I'm doing. My fucking team lost, got blown out yesterday. So I don't know what I'm talking about. So go out and win. And I don't want to get going with this. So, anyways, this guy's got to win. That's it. That's all. So that's it. I mean, we went through 5 real quick. Phil,
Bonus
promote
topic.
all your shit.
Like, you can catch me later on this evening on the Unfiltered Truth podcast with me and my partner Phil Jones, where we will detail some of this. We'll even hit you off with a little bit of a movie eval talking about Kong versus Godzilla. It was a good movie. You really should watch it, and I'll tell you why later. But go to the Unfiltered Truth page on YouTube, Facebook. You can find me at Phil Robinson on Twitter, and it just plenty of content for you. Unfiltered Truth, tell you exactly what you need to know and what everybody else won't tell you.
Okay, and you can find me obviously right here. I'm not going anywhere. But also, guys, in a few weeks, you're gonna see a brand new show. As I keep teasing, We Are Raiders podcast, which will be a video show. Next week, me and Phil are actually gonna do a video show. This coming week, I should say. So you guys will get to see like the makings of it. We're gonna, you'll get to see all that shit before it goes into the public atmosphere. But this stays here. So don't worry about that. All right, guys. So I will see you guys later. Thank you for all your support. My name is Stephen Michaels. That's Philip Robinson. Make sure to listen to or watch their Unfiltered Truth tonight. Make sure to watch. They're gonna talk about the Raiders and a whole bunch of shit movies and stuff like that. I have my kids watch that movie, by the way. They really like the movie. So anyways, that's it. We will talk to you guys again after a while.
And we're out.